Every person who tells you to know when to quit or cut your losses is unknowingly sabotaging your future. These well-meaning friends and family members are infected with quitter's logic, the belief that persistent effort without immediate results is foolish. They've convinced themselves that their own abandoned dreams were smart decisions rather than failures of persistence. When they see you struggling toward a goal, your persistence reminds them of their own surrender, which makes them deeply uncomfortable. The advice to quit isn't about protecting you from failure, it's about protecting them from the guilt of their own abandoned potential. 99% of people who start something never finish it. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Of every 100 people who begin a diet, start a business, or commit to learning a new skill, only one person will still be working on it 12 months later. The other 99 will have quit, made excuses, or convinced themselves it wasn't meant to be. You've been told lies about success your entire life. Hollywood movies, social media posts, and motivational posters have created a dangerous myth that success happens quickly for the chosen few. You see the highlight reel and think, that's the whole story. You hear about the entrepreneur who built $1 million company in 6 months. But nobody tells you about the 5 years of 18-hour days that came before. You read about the author who wrote a bestseller on their first try. But you never learn about the 17 rejected manuscripts sitting in their desk drawer. This mythology of overnight success is killing your dreams before they have a chance to breathe. When you believe success should come fast and easy, you're setting yourself up to quit the moment things get difficult. And things always get difficult. Let me tell you about Amanda. She opened her first restaurant with huge dreams and a small savings account. She had never run a business before, but she was passionate about cooking and believed that passion would be enough. The first month was exciting. New customers every day, positive reviews. She felt like she was living her dream. Month 2 brought the first problems. Equipment broke down. A key employee quit without notice. Food costs were higher than expected. But Amanda pushed through. She worked longer hours, learned to fix equipment herself, and took on extra shifts to save money. Month 3 was when reality hit hard. A competitor opened across the street. Customer traffic dropped by 40%. The restaurant was losing money every single day. Amanda's savings were disappearing fast. Friends and family started suggesting she cut her losses and get a regular job. This is where 99% of people quit. They look at the obstacles, calculate the odds, and decide it's not worth it. They tell themselves they tried their best, but sometimes things just don't work out. They create a story that makes quitting feel reasonable and responsible. But Amanda was different. She belonged to that 1%. Instead of quitting, she got curious. She studied her competitor. She talked to customers who stopped coming. She analyzed every expense and found ways to cut costs without sacrificing quality. She changed her menu, adjusted her hours, and started a delivery service. It took 8 more months of grinding, learning, and adapting, but Amanda's restaurant not only survived, it thrived. Today, she owns 4 restaurants and employs 47 people. The difference between Amanda and the 99% who would have quit wasn't talent, luck, or special advantages. It was persistence. Most people quit at 3 predictable stages. The first is what I call the reality check. This happens when the initial excitement wears off and you realize how much work is actually required. You thought losing weight would be fun, but now you're tired of salads and your body hurts from exercise. You thought starting a business would give you freedom, but now you're working more hours than you ever did as an employee. A second quitting point is the valley of despair. This is when you've been working hard for weeks or months, but can't see any meaningful progress. Your weight loss has stalled. Your business isn't growing. Your new skills aren't improving as fast as you hoped. This is where most people convince themselves they're not cut out for success. The third and most dangerous quitting point is the success plateau. This happens when you've made some progress but hit what feels like a ceiling. You've lost 20 pounds but can't lose the last 10. Your business is profitable but not growing. You're good at your new skill but not great. Many people quit here because they mistake a temporary plateau for a permanent limitation. Your brain is working against you at every one of these stages. Human beings are wired for survival, not success. Your brain's job is to keep you safe, comfortable, and alive. It's not designed to help you achieve extraordinary things when you try to change, grow, or improve. Your brain interprets this as a threat and activates your internal alarm system. This is why starting feels so uncomfortable. It's why you procrastinate on important tasks. It's why you feel anxious when you step outside your comfort zone. Your brain is literally fighting against your success because it wants to keep you exactly where you are. But here's what the 1% understand that the 99% don't. You can override your brain's survival programming. You can train yourself to push through discomfort, uncertainty, and temporary failure. The secret is understanding that persistence isn't about being superhuman. It's about being systematic. Every small action you take compounds over time. When you write one page of your book every day, you might not feel like you're making progress, but 365 days later, you have a complete manuscript. When you make 10 sales calls every day, you might get rejected 9 times. But over a year, those daily efforts create a pipeline that generates consistent income. The compound effect is the reason why persistence works and why most people never experience it. They quit before the compounding begins to show results. They plant seeds but dig them up before they can grow. They start the process but abandon it before it can work. Success isn't about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to what happens to you. You can't control market conditions, competition, or other people's decisions. But you can control your daily actions, your learning process, and your commitment to keep going when others quit. The brutal truth is that most people are looking for easy. They want results without effort, success without struggle, and achievement without persistence. But the 1% who achieve extraordinary results understand that easy doesn't exist. There is only hard work made easier by systems, habits, and relentless commitment to the process. What makes someone continue when everyone else quits? What separates the 1% who persist from the 99% who give up? The answer might surprise you. It's not natural talent, superior intelligence, or unlimited resources. The persistent few have developed specific mental patterns and behaviors that anyone can learn. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. The coach told him he wasn't good enough. Most teenagers would have been crushed by this rejection. They would have concluded that basketball wasn't for them and found something else to do. But Jordan used that rejection as fuel. He went home, practiced harder than ever, and made varsity the following year. That rejection became the foundation of his legendary work ethic. Years later, Jordan said that being cut was the best thing that ever happened to him. It taught him that talent alone isn't enough. It showed him that persistence and preparation matter more than natural ability. This mindset shift transformed a disappointed teenager into the greatest basketball player of all time. The persistent 1% think differently about failure and rejection. While most people see these experiences as signs to quit, persistent people see them as information. They don't take setbacks personally. They extract lessons from every disappointment and use those lessons to improve their approach. This brings us to the first characteristic of persistent achievers. They have an internal locus of control. They believe that their actions determine their results, not external circumstances. When something goes wrong, they don't blame the economy, their background, their age, or their competition. They ask themselves what they can do differently next time. Jake learned this principle the hard way. His first business was a landscaping service that failed after 6 months. He lost his initial investment and had to move back in with his parents. Most people would have concluded that entrepreneurship wasn't for them, but Jake analyzed what went wrong. He realized he had no business plan, no marketing strategy, and no financial controls. His second business was a food truck that also failed, but this time Jake was prepared for setbacks. He had created detailed financial projections and had enough savings to survive the slow startup period. When the food truck didn't work out, Jake wasn't devastated. He was educated. He had learned valuable lessons about customer acquisition, inventory management, and location selection. Jake's third business was a digital marketing agency. By this point, he had developed the skills and mindset necessary for success. He knew how to create a business plan, manage cash flow, and attract customers, more importantly. He had learned to persist through temporary failures without losing confidence in his ultimate success. Today, Jake's agency generates 7 figures in annual revenue and employs 12 people. The difference between his first failed business and his current success wasn't luck or timing. It was the accumulated wisdom that comes from refusing to quit after setbacks. This leads to the second characteristic of persistent people. They focus on systems rather than goals. Most people set goals and then hope for the best. They want to lose 30 pounds, so they go on a diet. They want to start a business, so they quit their job. They want to learn a new skill, so they buy a course. But persistent people understand that goals are just the destination. Systems are the vehicle that takes you there. Instead of focusing on losing 30 pounds, they focus on eating vegetables with every meal and exercising for 30 minutes each day. Instead of focusing on building $1 million business, they focus on making 10 sales calls and improving one process every day. The third characteristic is emotional resilience. Persistent people have learned to manage their emotions rather than being controlled by them. When they feel discouraged, frustrated, or overwhelmed, they don't interpret these emotions as signs to quit. They recognize them as temporary states that will pass if they keep moving forward. This emotional resilience isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you develop through practice. Every time you feel like quitting but choose to continue anyway, you strengthen your persistence muscle. Every time you face rejection but keep trying, you build emotional calluses that make future rejections less painful. The fourth characteristic is what I call flexible persistence. Persistent people are stubborn about their goals, but flexible about their methods. They don't quit when their first approach doesn't work. They adapt, adjust, and try different strategies until they find what works. Lisa exemplifies this principle. She wanted to lose 50 pounds and had tried every diet on the market: low carb, low fat, intermittent fasting, meal replacement shakes. Nothing worked long term. Each time she failed to stick with a diet, she felt more hopeless about ever reaching her goal. Then Lisa shifted her approach. Instead of looking for the perfect diet, she focused on building sustainable habits. She started by adding 1 vegetable to each meal. Once that became automatic, she added a 10-minute walk after dinner. Then she began preparing her lunch the night before to avoid fast food temptation. Each small change was easy to maintain, but together they created a powerful transformation. Lisa didn't just lose 50 pounds. She developed a lifestyle that keeps the weight off permanently. The key was being persistent about her goal while remaining flexible about her methods. Persistent people also understand the power of environment. They surround themselves with people who support their goals rather than undermine them. They create physical spaces that make success easier and failure harder. They eliminate temptations and obstacles that could derail their progress. Most importantly, persistent people have learned to find meaning in the process, not just the outcome. They understand that the person you become while pursuing a goal is more valuable than the goal itself. The discipline, resilience, and skills you develop through persistence serve you for a lifetime. The anatomy of the 1% isn't mysterious or complicated. It's a collection of learnable skills and mindsets that anyone can develop. The question isn't whether you have what it takes to be persistent. The question is whether you're willing to develop what it takes. Now that you understand what separates the persistent 1% from everyone else, let's talk about the specific methods they use to build unstoppable momentum. This isn't theory or wishful thinking. This is the practical science of persistence, backed by research and proven by results. Your brain creates new neural pathways every time you repeat an action. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, but you can think of it as mental muscle memory. When you first learn to drive a car, every action requires conscious thought. You have to think about pressing the brake, checking mirrors, and steering. But after months of repetition, driving becomes automatic. Your brain has built strong neural pathways that make these actions effortless. Persistence works the same way. Every time you choose to continue when you want to quit, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with determination and follow through. Every time you take action despite feeling unmotivated, you make it easier to take action the next time. This is why persistence gets easier with practice, not harder. The key is understanding that you don't build persistence through massive heroic efforts. You build it through small, consistent actions repeated over time. This is where most people make their biggest mistake. They try to change everything at once, burn out after a few weeks, and conclude that they lack willpower instead. Focus on what I call the 7 daily drivers of persistence. These are simple practices that, when done consistently, create unstoppable momentum toward your goals. The first driver is the morning commitment ritual. Before you check your phone, read email, or talk to anyone else, spend 5 minutes writing down your most important goal and the one action you'll take toward it today. This simple practice programs your subconscious mind to look for opportunities and solutions throughout the day. The second driver is the 2-minute rule. Whenever you feel resistance toward working on your goal, commit to just 2 minutes of action. Tell yourself you only have to write for 2 minutes, exercise for 2 minutes, or make calls for 2 minutes. This overcomes the mental resistance that stops most people from starting. Once you begin, momentum often carries you much further than 2 minutes. The third driver is progress tracking. What gets measured gets improved. Keep a simple log of your daily actions toward your goal. Don't track outcomes you can't control, like how much weight you lost or how many sales you made. Track behaviors you can control, like how many times you exercised or how many prospects you contacted. Lisa discovered the power of progress tracking during her weight loss transformation. Instead of obsessing over the scale, she tracked her daily habits. Did she eat vegetables with every meal? Did she take her evening walk? Did she prepare her lunch the night before? By focusing on consistent actions rather than fluctuating results, she maintained motivation even when the scale didn't move. The fourth driver is failure recovery protocols. Persistent people don't avoid failure, they plan for it. They create specific procedures for getting back on track when they inevitably stumble. When Lisa missed her evening walk, she had a rule: do 10 minutes of stretching before bed instead. When she ate an unplanned dessert, she didn't abandon her goals for the day. She made sure her next meal included extra vegetables. The fifth driver is environmental design. Make the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. If you want to write a book, keep your laptop open to your manuscript and hide your television remote. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits and vegetables at eye level in your refrigerator and store junk food in hard-to-reach places. The sixth driver is weekly reviews every 7 days. Analyze your progress objectively. What actions moved you forward? What obstacles slowed you down? What can you adjust for the coming week? This prevents you from drifting off course without realizing it. The seventh driver is the 90-day focus cycle. Instead of thinking about your goal as a lifetime commitment, break it into 90-day segments. This makes large goals feel manageable while being long enough to create meaningful progress. 90 days is long enough to build new habits, but short enough to maintain intensity. Here's how setbacks fit into this system. When you encounter obstacles, don't ask yourself whether you should quit. Ask yourself what you can learn from the situation. Every setback contains valuable information about your approach, your preparation, or your strategy. Consider this carefully. The most successful people in any field have failed more often than average people have even tried. They haven't succeeded despite their failures. They've succeeded because of their failures. Each setback taught them something essential that they couldn't have learned any other way. This is why building accountability systems is crucial for long-term persistence. Find someone who will ask you about your progress regularly. This could be a mentor, a friend, a coach, or even a group of like-minded people working towards similar goals. When you know someone will ask about your progress, you're more likely to take action even when motivation is low. But accountability must be structured properly. Don't just tell people about your goals and expect them to hold you accountable. Give them specific questions to ask you. Tell them exactly what actions you're committed to taking and ask them to check on your progress weekly. The science is clear. Persistence isn't a personality trait you're born with or without. It's a skill you can develop through deliberate practice. Every time you choose to continue when quitting would be easier, you're building your persistence capacity. Every time you get back up after being knocked down, you're training your brain to expect recovery rather than defeat. The practical application is simple but not easy. Choose one goal. Implement the 7 daily drivers. Plan for setbacks. Build accountability systems. Then commit to the process for 90 days. Don't judge your progress daily or even weekly. Trust the system and focus on consistency over perfection. Everything you've learned up to this point means nothing without action. Knowledge without application is worthless. Understanding without implementation is just intellectual entertainment. The time for learning is over. The time for doing begins now. Before you leave here today, you're going to make specific commitments that will transform your approach to persistence. You're going to identify your personal breaking points, create your support systems, and establish the daily practices that will carry you through when motivation fails. First, let's identify where you typically quit. Everyone has predictable patterns of surrender. Some people quit when the initial excitement wears off. Others quit when progress slows down. Still others quit when they face their first major setback. Knowing your personal quitting pattern is essential because you can prepare for it. Think about the last 3 times you started something important and didn't finish it. What was happening in each situation when you decided to quit? Were you facing financial pressure? Did you feel overwhelmed by the amount of work required? Were you comparing your progress to someone else's success? Were you dealing with criticism from people around you? Your quitting pattern is not a character flaw. It's simply information about how your mind responds to specific types of pressure. Once you recognize the pattern, you can create strategies to push through these predictable moments of weakness. Robert understood this principle when he decided to change careers at 42. He had been an accountant for 20 years, but dreamed of becoming a real estate investor. His pattern was clear. He would get excited about a new opportunity, research it thoroughly, make initial plans, and then quit when he realized how much work was actually required. Instead of ignoring this pattern, Robert planned for it. He wrote himself a letter to read when he felt like quitting. The letter reminded him why he wanted to change careers, what his life would look like if he didn't follow through, and specific actions to take when motivation disappeared. When the predictable moment of doubt arrived, Robert was ready for it. The letter worked. Instead of quitting, Robert recommitted to his plan. He spent 18 months learning about real estate while keeping his accounting job. He saved money for his first investment property and built relationships with other investors. Today, Robert owns 17 rental properties and has replaced his accounting income with passive real estate returns. The difference between Robert and the countless people who dream about changing careers but never do it wasn't talent, luck, or special advantages. It was preparation for the moments when quitting feels reasonable. Your support network is equally crucial. Most people underestimate how much their environment influences their persistence. If you're surrounded by people who quit when things get difficult, you'll unconsciously adopt the same behavior. If you're surrounded by people who persist through challenges, their example will strengthen your resolve. Audit your current relationships honestly. Who encourages your growth and who undermines it? Who celebrates your small victories and who dismisses them? Who asks about your progress and who changes the subject when you mention your goals? You don't need to eliminate negative people from your life, but you do need to limit their influence on your thinking. Actively seek out people who model the persistence you want to develop. This might mean joining a mastermind group, finding a mentor, or simply spending more time with the most persistent person you know. Success leaves clues, and persistent people are happy to share their strategies with others who are serious about applying them. Now let's establish your daily, weekly, and monthly persistence habits. These are the non-negotiable actions that will keep you moving forward regardless of how you feel or what obstacles you encounter. Your daily habits should take no more than 30 minutes and directly advance your most important goal. This might be writing 500 words, making 10 sales calls, studying for 30 minutes, or exercising. The specific action matters less than the consistency. Choose something you can do every single day, including weekends and holidays. Your weekly habit is a progress review and planning session every Sunday. Spend 30 minutes analyzing the previous week and preparing for the upcoming one. What worked well? What didn't work? What obstacles do you need to prepare for? What support do you need to request? This weekly practice prevents you from drifting off course without realizing it. Your monthly habit is a bigger picture assessment. Are you still working toward the right goal? Do your daily and weekly actions need adjustment? Are you making progress at an acceptable pace? This monthly review ensures that your persistence is directed toward outcomes that truly matter to you. Here's your commitment framework. Write down your answers to these questions before you leave today. What is the one goal that would most improve your life if you achieved it in the next 12 months? What daily action will you take toward this goal starting tomorrow? Who will hold you accountable for maintaining this daily practice? What will you do when you feel like quitting? Your future self is depending on the decision you make today. 10 years from now, you'll either be grateful that you developed the habit of persistence or regretful that you let another opportunity slip away. The choice is entirely yours, but the choice must be made now. Persistence isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's not about never falling down, it's about always getting back up. It's not about avoiding obstacles, it's about finding ways around, over, or through them. The 99% who quit will always find reasons why success isn't possible for them. The 1% who persist will always find ways to make success inevitable. Which group will you choose to join? Your persistence starts now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Now, because the only moment you can control is this one. And what you do in this moment determines everything that follows.